Began on Capitol Hill, where 22 senators serving on the Judiciary Committee gave opening statements, as did Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson herself, formally kicking off the Supreme Court nomination process today.
The historic first day wrapped up after about 4 hours. CBS News correspondent Debra Alfarone reports from Washington.
On day one of her confirmation hearings, Supreme Court nominee Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson reintroduced herself to the country.
My parents taught me that unlike the many barriers that they had had to face growing up, my path was clearer, so that if I worked hard and I believed in myself in America, I could do anything or be anything I wanted to be.
You're the first Black woman, and it's long past time.
Earlier, all 22 members of the Senate Judiciary Committee delivered opening remarks, delving into topics that will likely dominate the next 2 days of questioning.
I'm a bit troubled by some of the positions you've taken and arguments that you've made, representing people who have committed terrorist acts against the United States.
The court is considering a woman's fundamental right to control her own body.
United States versus Hawkins. This was a child pornography case. Prosecutors recommended 24 months in prison. Judge Jackson gave the defendant 3 months in prison.
Judge Jackson currently sits on the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. She's also been a district judge, a public defender, and served on the U.S. Sentencing Commission.
South Carolina's Lindsey Graham, one of 3 Republicans who confirmed Judge Jackson to her current position, lashed out that a candidate he backed, Judge J. Michelle Childs, didn't get the nomination.
Judge Childs would have gotten 60+ votes.
Outside, Black law students cheered Judge Jackson on. For them, her nomination is personal.
It just means that I can achieve any goal that I want to achieve.
Democrats hope to wrap up the confirmation process early next month. Debra Alfarone, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
For more, let's bring in Nikole Killion. Nikole is CBS News congressional correspondent. Hi there, Nikole. So you have been on Capitol Hill all day long watching this process on day one. You've been speaking with senators as well. What are their impressions so far of Judge Jackson?
Well, look, I think overall both Democrats and Republicans have actually been pretty complimentary of her background and for reaching this milestone given the historic nature of her nomination. So we heard both Democratic and Republican senators alike congratulate her on this nomination, and many also being very complimentary of the fact that she has been very candid, the fact that she has been very open, and the fact that she has taken the time to sit with senators on this committee. That being said, there certainly is a difference of opinion with respect to Judge Jackson's record. We heard a number of Democrats today really heap a lot of praise on her, because keep in mind she has been before this committee before. In fact, just as recently as last year, she was confirmed by the panel and by the Senate to the Circuit Court in a bipartisan vote. And she's been before the Senate now 3 times. In all cases, those have been bipartisan votes. So Democrats mostly argued that this time really should be no different in their view, that she's kind of proven her mettle, if you will. But many Republicans say that her record deserves a more thorough deep dive, and that while they plan to be respectful, they also are going to be very thorough and ask tough questions. Specifically, some of them feel that she's too soft on crime. That was certainly a line that we heard from a number of Republicans throughout their opening statements, but they believe that that is a fair line of questioning to delve deeper on.
And Nikole, during her statement, Judge Jackson had a message to the committee about how she would preside if confirmed. Take a listen.
If I am confirmed, I commit to you that I will work productively to support and defend the Constitution and this grand experiment of American democracy that has endured over these past 246 years. I have been a judge for nearly a decade now, and I take that responsibility and my duty to be independent very seriously. I decide cases from a neutral posture.
Nikole, you mentioned that she has gotten bipartisan support in the past, but what did you learn today about potential issues that Republican senators plan to press her on in the days ahead?
Well, again, in terms of this issue of being soft on crime, certainly one of the more vocal senators on this committee has been Missouri's Josh Hawley, who says that he really wants to do a deeper dive on her sentencing record when it comes to cases involving child pornography. He ticked through a number of different cases that she was involved in and said that he feels that she has been more lenient than some of the sentencing guidelines and recommendations, and so he wants to get more answers as to why. And he said he's not trying to trap her, not trying to play gotcha, but he just legitimately wants to know more, although White House officials argue that, he's cherry picking aspects of her record. We know Republicans also want to press her on this issue of court packing. That's something actually Minority Leader Mitch McConnell has brought up, even though he's not a member of this committee. But, he raised the fact that he brought that up in his own meeting with her and that she did not provide an answer. So we heard Republicans in the committee today say that that is something that they want to talk more about. And also keep in mind she was a public defender and at one point in time represented some of the Guantanamo Bay detainees. So Republicans also want to get a better sense of that. And some of them also said that they want to know if she has any ties to some of these liberal groups that have been supporting her, these so-called dark money groups, as they've raised, although certainly these types of groups are on both sides. So that being said, that's just kind of a preview of what we may hear. Democrats have their own questions as well, with respect to some of the current issues before the court. And while the judge may not be able to kind of wade into the particulars of how she might rule in a particular case, but, many Democrats do want to know a little bit more. We heard, for instance, Senator Feinstein, who raised the issue of, reproductive rights are before the court, the issue of climate change. And so certainly we expect a pretty robust line of questioning tomorrow from both sides. And it will be a long night. I'm told, this could go several hours well late into the night.
So, Nikole, given what you just laid out and the potential questions from both Democrats and Republicans, tell us about Judge Jackson's preparation process. How has she prepared for the questions that she'll face starting tomorrow?
Well, in talking to some members of her team and those who are familiar with the process, she prepared in a number of ways. For instance, we know that she participated in moot court sessions with White House staff. Also, Doug Jones, who's kind of been the Sherpa who's been shepherding her here around on Capitol Hill, has said, a lot of her preparation has been at these meetings that she has had with senators, and now some 45 senators at this point. He also told me that she has done a lot of reading and really gone back into her own opinions and her own record dating all the way back to her college and law school career. So he told me that she has done a lot of due diligence, and he hopes that senators equally have done the same.
High-profile confirmation process for a position on the high court. Nikole Killion on Capitol Hill. Nikole, thank you.
You bet.